All right. Man, it's bright up here. I feel like a rock star now. I was getting ready to, come down here this morning, and I came down to breakfast, and my wife took one look at me, and she said, "What is this, some kind of cut-rate Steve Jobs?" And, oh well, so much for the professor look. So, I want to talk to you about thinking about schools as systems. How are we going to fix schools and education? It's a pervasive problem. We've dealt with it literally for a century and a half in this society. Why is it so difficult to reform schools and education? I want to make a distinction for you. I want to talk about the difference between schooling and education. School is the place where education is obviously supposed to happen. There are lots of rules, There's a great deal of emphasis on obedience. It sounds like some of you had some experiences with that. I'm not alone. Wonderful. Let me give you a little example here. Right? What's going to get you sent to the principal's office first in a school? Is it going to be goofing off in class or not knowing how to read? Goofing off in class. Is a school set up to ensure that people don't goof off in class? Or is it set up to make sure we learn how to read? All right. So we find these things in conflict. Here's education. To contrast that, right? Education is about the development of the individual. I think one of the most important questions that we can teach students, kindergarten to graduate school, to ask is, who am I and what do I want? There has to be an ongoing heuristic, I think, throughout your life to ask that question, to think about, who do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to be? What are my values? What do I stand for? What will I live for? What will I die for? What kind of world do I want to be in? I mean, this is what this is all about. What kind of world do we want? And I think what's great about this is we're thinking about that, and we need to get other folks in school and the rest of society thinking about it. Education, the root of the word in Latin, educare, to draw out. We want to find out what's inside the person and bring it out. As I said, school and education are sometimes kind of in conflict with each other. How we think about problems at school has an awful lot to do with how we try to solve our problems. Oftentimes, our attempts to fix schools, our attempts to fix education, just focus on one or two factors, right? Teachers are the problem. We've all heard that. I'm not saying teachers are the problem. They say teachers are the problem. Society is the problem. We got things going on. The curriculum is the problem, right? Now, all of these have a possibility here, but thinking about them as single factors, thinking about them in terms of the one-size-fits-all approach, kind of misses what needs to happen in individual schools and what needs to happen with individuals. So I said I'm going to talk to you about systems. And a system, thinking systemically involves, well, I should back up a second, I'm sorry. Thinking systemically allows us to understand context, right? It makes it possible for us to deal with problems in new and more effective ways. Right? Student performance in schools is connected to all kinds of factors outside. School consists of students, parents. These are all factors that go into any given school. Administrators, school boards, state government, federal government. We have all these laws. Now think about this, right? Look at my tangle here. Look at this mess we've got here. Now we want to fix this by going in and looking at one factor at a time, but we've got all of this going on. Education is driven by cultural assumptions that the larger society puts on it. Right? Our beliefs tends to be our belief tends to be about education, that it's for future employment. Right? There's a systemic problem. We're preparing people for a future that no longer exists. Technological disruption, we've got economic changes, ecological problems that are going on, and so forth. The complexity of a system is described by the amount of information required to describe that system. Think about each of these individual things. So you write a book on everybody up there, right? We've got a real tangle. If we're going to be effective, we've got to think about all these interconnections, all of these relationships. There are a number of other fields that think about, that have adopted a systemic approach, and they've done so successfully. I'll just run through a few: computer science, physics, genetics, chemistry, economics, and a number of other fields as well. What you get when you think systemically is you get the possibility of approaching problems in a new way. You get to think about interactions. You get to think about how a community interacts with a school, how a school interacts with the community. It gives you some possibilities when we're trying to understand an individual child. We have this sort of one-size-fits-all approach to discipline. I'm not really comfortable with that term discipline. I like to sort of work with people and guide them. Discipline sounds like we're going to hit you on the head and send you to the principal's office and all of this kind of stuff. We get the possibility of a better understanding of students. We can learn something about the context of individual students' lives. We can understand what their motivations are. We can learn something about their needs. We get a better understanding of schools and how, as I said, the school and the community interact with each other. We get some new possibilities when we think systemically. Right? Bringing a systemic perspective to schools and education allows us to have new ideas about education. Has anyone ever asked you in the process of your education, who are you and what do you want? You know, we're told, well, you need to learn this because it's on the test. You know, if you don't learn this, you're going to be in trouble. You know, well, that's not a very inspiring thing. Even, you know, you get the education, get the job. You know, but what about the rest of it? We want to make a living, but we also got to make a life. I think systemic thinking allows us to approach it in this sort of ways, right? We get to empower kids to think about these questions and answer them for themselves. And of course, I think the really important question that they can learn is to think about who am I and what do I want? How does my life connect to the curriculum? What's my relationship to my area of knowledge, my teachers, and the rest of the world? Who am I and what do I want? That's the important question. Thank you.